I hope this doesn't look weird. This is the first time I've done a tutorial. Third time trying to film it, first time actually doing it. Editing photos is something that sounds very simple, but it's actually very complicated. It takes many years of becoming a very efficient editor to kind of know what to do and change and make images look kind of how you see them in your head. I mean, when I started editing, I used to edit on my phone on the app Snapseed, and that was pretty simple because everything was kind of just touch and drag, and you did everything with your fingers, and it was pretty simple. But once I started editing with Lightroom, it was kind of overwhelming. I mean, this is a professional software, and I'm like, I'm not a pro at the time, so how am I gonna like utilize this thing? And honestly, it just took a lot of time and practice to become an efficient editor. And today, these are 5 tips that I've learned in my journey I want to share with you guys. Are gonna help you become a better editor with Lightroom. So Lightroom tip number 1, guys, is Radial Filters. Now, this is a super simple but very effective tool that I use in literally every photo I ever edit. I wouldn't know how to edit without it. This photo right here, I already went ahead and pre-edited to save us some time. I'm not gonna show the whole process of editing a photo from scrap to finish. If you guys want to see that, make sure to leave it in the comment section. That way you guys can see kind of how my brain works and how I edit photos. For this photo, I'm basically almost done with it. What we're gonna do is that we're gonna go over here onto the right hand side. I think the default setting for Lightroom's radial filter is that when you go ahead and use it, it's gonna affect the outside of your circle. So usually I like to go ahead and go down here and hit the invert, make sure that's checked off. And like I said, I really want to affect the center focus here with the guy playing the guitar. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and head over here to the feather, and I'm gonna completely feather it out. I'm gonna hit O, which basically affects the show selected mask overlay to kind of see what we're affected. And if we bring down our feather to 0, it's gonna be like a hard cut. Or we slide over to 100, it's just really feathered, and it kind of gives you more of a natural look per se. So I'm gonna hit O again to take off the selected mask. I wanna make the inside of the image brighter, so I'm really just adjusting my parameters of my exposure, mainly my highlights, a little bit of my shadows. I don't wanna go too crazy. Kind of like where that looks, I'm actually gonna bump it up a little bit more. That's pretty much perfect. So if you go to the before and after, it's a pretty drastic difference of what we went ahead and did. The second Lightroom tip is graduated filters, guys. Okay, I'm gonna be saying I use this all the time because I literally use all of these tips 100% of the time, 99% of the time, if that makes sense.
60% of the time, it works every time.
So we're gonna go ahead over to this photo, same thing, already kind of pre-edited to save us some time, and we're gonna go ahead and use this little rectangular tool. That's the graduated filter. And for this photo, what I like to use these for is to kind of really just bring attention to my subject. Radial filters is just like a circular way to do it, but in this photo, I don't really want to vignette the sky too much, so what I'm gonna do is use the graduated filter. So I'm gonna start off at the bottom, hold it, and just pull it up. I'm gonna go ahead and hit O to show my selected mask overlay. I like to really feather him out, so I just go ahead and stretch out the actual dimension of the filter. I like it right about there, so I'm gonna hit O again to take off my mask, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of just play with these. First of all, I am gonna drop my exposure. One little tip that I like to do when I am darkening, like for example in this photo I am darkening the ground, I like to put some clarity back into what I'm darkening. I just think it brings back a lot of like the little details, so it doesn't feel like everything's just getting blasted with darkness. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this actual filter. I'm just gonna go ahead and darken the sides. So I'm gonna rotate it a little bit, kind of like right there. This is kind of gonna create a bit of a V, but for this photo, I really want to push your eye into this goat. Gonna go ahead and lower my darkness because it's getting a little too crazy. So same thing with the other side. Like I said before, these tools are super helpful to just bring focus into whatever subject you want to do. You could go ahead and add vignetting to the actual photo down at the bottom, but then again, you can't really have that much control over it. Like if you say you don't want to vignette your skies in this example, but also you could kind of adjust some parameters so your highlights don't get affected, but it's not always perfect. And I'm actually going to drop a radial filter as well, being that I don't know how to not use it. And I'm actually going to add another one. I hit new to add another one. I'm going to add one on the goat's face just to bring that up a little bit. Feels like that's like a focal point. Same thing, gonna feather it out. Adjust these a little bit. So that's basically it for the graduated filters. Okay, so now on to Lightroom tip number 3. Actually revolves around a lot the filter system. These are called the range masks. So for example, on the same photo, we're gonna go ahead and drop another graduated filter. You can use these on graduated filters and radial filters. I'm gonna go over here to the thing that says range mask. I'm actually gonna switch it to luminance. Once this pops up, we're gonna go ahead and check the show luminance mask, and this range slider basically determines what's getting affected. As As you can see, as I slide it over, it's really just affecting like the highlights of the whatever is within that graduated filter. And that's actually what I want to do, just because I want to lower the exposure and kind of just bring back the details from that sky, because with the edit, we kind of lost a lot of those details. Right now, I'm going to uncheck the show luminance mask. If I make any adjustments, we could see it's affecting a bit on the goat's head, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm actually going to go in here and just make adjustments to the actual mask itself. So I'm going to hit again, show luminance mask. I'm going to go head over to brush, and this is going to basically enable me to erase away or add any more areas that I want to get affected. So I'm really going to zoom in onto the goat. You can see a little bit of pink on his head, so his upper torso is getting affected by the actual mask. So anything I paint onto right now with the plus sign is going to add that mask, or it's going to include it in the mask, and I want to take stuff away from the mask. So I'm going to hold down Option. It changes from a plus sign to a negative sign. So now what I'm also like to make sure I check off, I like to go over here to the brush. I'm still holding down Option. I want to head over here to auto mask, and I make sure that's always checked on. So I'm going to head over and start painting away at the goat's head to start subtracting that from the actual affected area. Okay, I basically think that we managed to erase the goat away from the mask. And now I'm going to switch back to edit, because I was still under brush. I'm going to turn off the show mask luminance, and then I'm going to drop my exposure down a little bit to bring back the details in the sky. So I'm also going to bring down my highlights, drop my shadows a bit, maybe make it a little bit cooler, exposure a little bit, add some saturation back to the sky. Okay, I think that's pretty much really good right there. Okay, so I think we're basically done with this part of the photo. Just to really show how drastically you can use this tool, I think this photo is a perfect example just to show how the range mask, like the real power behind it. And this is the original photo that I took. As you could see, like I said before, I tried underexposing. After I edited my photo, I brought back my exposure. As you could see, this really blew out the sky. There's like almost no detail there whatsoever. But after we go ahead and use our range mask, this is the photo that we end up with. As you can see, it's a drastic, I mean, there was no detail in the sky whatsoever, but we brought back that detail. Now on to Lightroom tip number 4 is SCurve, guys. If you really want to get good at your edits, you can do everything through your SCurve. There's a lot to really unpackage in this part of it. Breaking down the tone curve, we have our blacks here, our shadows here, midtones, highlights, and whites. So any little adjustments you make, I'm really gonna exaggerate this. You can really, or like that looks disgusting. You can really change how your image looks. You drop the pins just by clicking on the actual curve. So first things first, I'm actually gonna lift my black. This is gonna give me a little bit more of that fade. So I'm gonna try to edit this a little bit more of like a vintage vibe. So I'm gonna bring up my highlights, probably, okay, my midtones, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna lift my blacks a little bit more. At the end of the day, less is more when it comes to using the tone curve. Okay, I'm kind of happy how my curve is looking right now. As you guys can see, it has a little bit of a curvature to it. That's why it's called the SCurve. Now to complete off our list, guys, Lightroom tip number 5 is split toning. Now split toning really allows you to kind of dial in the look that you're going for in a specific photo. It allows you to put colors into either your highlights or your shadows. In this case, a really typical way to get an old vintage vibe from a photo, add some reds. As you can see right here with the dropper tool, you're able to see what colors go where and stuff. So right now I'm going to add a little bit of red, and I'm going to lower my saturation. Less is more also with this. You don't want to go too crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it down a little bit. See right here in our shadows, you could start seeing that little bit of a red tint. And then for our highlights, we're gonna go over and we're gonna hit it with a bit of an orange, I think like right there. And if you want to see the adjustments that you're doing to your photo, this little like on, it's basically like a light switch. You can hit it and it turns off whatever adjustments you made. So you can see like the before and after. Okay, so that looks pretty cool. I'm actually gonna lift my blacks a little bit more to get more detail in the shadows a little bit. Bring back some contrast since I really lifted up those blacks a bit there. And that looks pretty good right there. Now I think that her face is a little bit too dark, and this is another great use for our radial filter. So we're gonna go ahead and put a radial filter on her face to bring back just some light in that specific area. Put a little bit of highlight and shadows. Okay, there it is, done, cool. That looks good, I'm happy where it looks like. Awesome. So guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed these 5 tips that I hope you use in your next photo that you edit in your next session. I promise these are gonna make your life way easier, guys. Like I said before, every single one of these things I used in every photo I've ever edited. This is what I use use this as part of my workflow, and I hope this manages to educate, look at my hands. I hope this manages to educate you guys and actually show you guys kind of the benefits of using them. And hopefully, like I said before, that range mask, guys, use it for your next portrait. You have a sunset, a picture of something like that, I promise, like, it just changes your photos completely. It blew my mind when I saw it, and honestly, I feel like no one really talks about it. This was my first tutorial on Lightroom, so hopefully I managed to explain myself properly, and hopefully I didn't leave you guys like, what the is he saying? Hope you guys stick around for more of this content. Make sure to hit that like button. It really does help out the video. And also subscribe, you know? See how I get better at doing tutorials. Maybe I'm gonna be like the next like tutorial master or something. No, but honestly, guys, hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos, guys. I try to upload twice a week. So yeah, twice a week, y'all get to see me. That's not really a good thing, but okay, cool, guys. Peace out. Oh, I always get so thirsty after these videos.